Have you ever just known something was true? Like 100% certain, deep in your bones, even though you couldn't really prove it with perfect logic? Well, today, we're diving into that fascinating puzzle, the paradox of how we make that mental leap from thinking something is probably true to believing it's absolutely certain.
So let's jump right in. The thing is, when we're weighing evidence, the process of inference, it's always a game of probabilities. It's conditional. But the belief that comes out the other side, that often feels completely unconditional, totally certain. So how does that happen? How does a shaky conditional process give us a rock-solid unconditional result? That's the mystery we're going to try and solve.
All right, to start, let's look at the most common sense idea of how belief is supposed to work. It's a really logical, very clean theory that basically says your level of certainty should perfectly match your level of proof.
Think of it like a dimmer switch for a light. The more evidence you get, the brighter your belief shines. The less evidence you have, the dimmer it gets. Simple, right? In this view, belief isn't just on or off. It's a whole gradient, a scale of intensity that's directly tied to how strong your reasons are.
The famous philosopher John Locke really championed this idea. He put it just like this, arguing that the true sign of someone who loves the truth is that they never believe in something more strongly than the proof allows. To him, doing anything else wasn't just illogical, it was almost a moral failing.
So, if you follow this theory, belief should look something like this tidy little ladder. You start down at the bottom with a simple suspicion. As you gather more evidence, you start climbing up through conjecture, persuasion, and conviction, getting closer and closer to total certainty. It makes a lot of sense on paper, doesn't it?
But what if that's not how our minds actually work at all? The author of our source material argues for a completely different model. Forget the dimmer switch. We should be thinking about belief as a simple, decisive on-off switch.
And the name for flipping that switch is assent. Now, this is crucial. Assent is not the process of weighing evidence. It's the final, single, decisive act of accepting something as true. It's not about degrees. You either assent or you don't. It is an absolute, all-in commitment of your mind.
This really lays out the difference perfectly. On one side, you have inference. That's the journey. It's a process, it's conditional, and its strength goes up and down with the proof. But on the other side, you have assent. That's the destination. It's a single act, it's unconditional, and it's absolute. It's on or it's off. You can't kinda, sorta assent to something. You're either all in or you're out. And get this, here comes the brilliant twist. The biggest supporter of that whole dimmer switch theory, John Locke himself, had to admit that in the real world, that's just not how we operate. He actually observed that once the probability of something gets high enough, we treat it as an absolute certainty. We assent to it as firmly as if they were infallibly demonstrated.
So there's the contradiction, right? If Locke's first rule is correct, that belief must be proportional to proof, then how can he also be correct that we rationally treat strong probabilities as absolute truths? This is the point where the author of our source material says, okay, let's stop looking at these abstract theories and start looking at how people actually live.
And that brings us right to the heart of the argument. The real evidence for how belief works isn't found in some dusty philosophy book about how the mind should act, but in the undeniable truths we all live and breathe every single day.
The author's whole method is just go by the facts. Let's not invent some perfect rule for how people are supposed to think. Instead, let's just look at how we actually think. Let's investigate human nature as it is, not as we wish it would be.
And this just nails the point home beautifully. I mean, think about it. Do you have a mathematical step-by-step proof that you had parents, or that London is a real place, or that Great Britain is an island? Probably not. But do you believe any of these things with less than 100% certainty? Of course not. We give them our complete, unconditional assent.
And this number right here, that represents the amount of doubt you have about any of those facts in your day-to-day life. 0. Zilch. Nada. You don't have a 99.9% belief that you need food to live. You have a total, absolute assent to that fact. The switch is flipped all the way on.
And we see this split between logic and belief all the time. I mean, we hold on to beliefs long after we've forgotten the original arguments for them. And sometimes, we lose a belief even when the logic still seems solid. And have you ever heard a really powerful argument and thought, yeah, that makes sense, but you just didn't believe it? That's assent and inference doing their own separate things.
So why is this so important? What's the big deal? Well, because understanding this distinction really changes everything about how we think about conviction, about certainty, and even about what it means to be a rational person.
The fundamental mistake, according to our author, is trying to apply the rules of logic, which is a formal, scientific system, to the messy, internal, psychological reality of what it feels like to believe something. They're just two different things, and they play by two different sets of rules.
And here's a fantastic analogy from the text to make it crystal clear. A logical proof is like a thermometer. It gives you an objective, external measurement of the evidence. But the act of assent, that's like the actual feeling of warmth. No one can tell you you're wrong for feeling warm just because the thermometer only says 60 degrees. One is an outside measurement, the other is an inside state of being.
And that all leads to this final, really powerful takeaway. Giving your absolute, unconditional assent to something that's based on strong, but not mathematically perfect evidence isn't some irrational flaw. It is not an error that needs to be fixed. It's a fundamental, essential law of how the human mind works. It's literally how we operate and navigate the world.
So I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. Take a look at your own convictions. The things you believe about the world, about yourself, about other people. What are the things you hold to be absolutely unshakably true, even though you couldn't sit down and write a perfect logical proof for them? Because recognizing those beliefs, well, that's the first step to understanding the profound nature of belief itself.